But you can see me and everything?
Yeah.
Well,
We're actually live. The pre-show will be Skip Talbot eating.
I,
Now he's not going to eat.
well, maybe a little bit here and there. If it's a long show, I'll have to eat. I have to eat every 6 hours, or I'll die like some sort of mole or something.
If I, well, this will be kind of off key, but the thing about in my case is if I eat too much, I would have, because I lost my gallbladder a couple years ago.
Hmm.
So of course everything we won't discuss that, but you'll get the idea that
Yeah.
eating and especially if I eat greasy foods, which would pretty much be like at every convenience store,
Yep.
that's not going to agree with me. Not
Yeah, I
even.
don't eat greasy food anymore. It's that gets to me too.
Oh, so you lost your gallbladder.
No, I lost my appendix, but I still have my gallbladder. But
I
yeah,
have my appendix, but no gallbladder. We're welcome to missing body parts. Oh, brother. So, but I mean, right now, I think because we're probably going to talk about this Sunday event that's
okay.
coming up that SPC then got everybody excited about a day 5 and a day 4, and then on day 3 it's like, oh, it's only a slight. Oh.
Yeah, they didn't even like put up a 30% or anything. It's just a nice.
Yeah, our group was it's like, then why did they do a day 4 and 5 for something that they could have just waited till day 3?
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see the day 5 actually. But the GFS has been consistent and shows a nice setup. But I don't disagree with that 15 on the day 3. It doesn't look like a huge event.
Yeah.
It looks chaseable. I'll probably be out, but.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about that. Oh, it's 7 o'clock. Oh, that doesn't stop us from being late. But anyway, so I'm sure everybody, or the lack of people that are watching, because I'm hoping I put the right thing on the live page. Because if I didn't, well, then you'll have to watch it later.
Should I share the link on Facebook or something?
You can. Then we can probably I wish the question and answer thing would work on our end, because I've not tried it in so long. I'd probably get questions from like other chasers saying, "Why is Skip so chase too much? Doesn't he have a life or something?" That's not my opinion, by the way, but I sound like something Adam would probably say. Let's just say Adam's episode, it took an hour to get him on.
Yeah, I hope we're live here or it's coming in.
Yeah, it's on now, so.
Oh yeah, I see myself on the show, so I got it going here on the computer.
Yeah.
Cool.
Of course, I'm on my desktop, so of course my camera's not on because there's no camera on my desktop.
Yeah, it's showing just your profile picture there, and
If you want to take a guess, where do you think that was taken?
oh, I don't know. I can't see what's in the background. Oh, it's some sort of stadium. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, surprisingly, a few people have actually guessed right, but.
Oh man, I know like 3 stadiums. Like I know Wrigley and
Wrong.
Comiskey, which is what, U.S. Cellular now.
Yeah, it's not Comiskey either.
That's about it. I don't know much about sports or anything.
Oh, Skip Talbot does not know about sports. Breaking news there.
Sports ball. Yeah,
It is a baseball stadium, I will give you that.
Okay. I know there's Fenway and
Ding!
is it Fenway?
It's Fenway Park.
That's like one of 3 stadiums that I know. So I don't even know what the one in St. Louis is. Like the
Bush Stadium 40 or something.
Sure.
So, Yeah, but you could get to St. Louis and like lickety split.
Oh yeah, St. Louis is closer than Chicago to me down here in Springfield.
Because you're in lovely downstate.
Yeah, yeah, I was from the Chicago area, but I just moved down to Springfield a couple years ago. So yeah, we're a lot closer to St. Louis now.
Okay, so, well, we'll discuss what we'll start out with the current weather. It rained here. What is it doing there?
It's pretty sunny, but it's getting dark because we got a line of storms coming in from the west. Take a look at the radar here.
You can screen share that if you wanted to.
Oh, it's on my other computer. It's on my desktop.
Oh, darn. Well, my Gibson Ridge radar is on the other it's on the laptop, so darn.
Yeah.
I haven't put it on desktop yet. But yeah, there's a few storms. Will they be severe? Eh.
Yeah, we're just gonna get a little rain here in a bit, I think. Maybe some thunder. That would be nice.
I already had thunder. It thundered twice and then it stopped. I'll tell you the story before we get into the nitty gritty. The people on our staff because I'm at the Iowa Weather Network, not the Iowa Storm Chasing Network. We don't like them. They have a Dominator thing. We don't like that.
Oh.
Anyway, so you can eat while doing this. Anyway, so they complain. They go off on me about that I'm kind of a bit frightened of lightning. And I always want to like unplug everything if it lightnings. We had a storm about 6-8 weeks ago. Came in and I was actually on the internet. I think I was in a video call. It wasn't on a Polygon episode. And lightning struck. All I saw was a big bright flash. I never heard the thunder, which was kind of really creepy. And I was in my living room on my laptop. All of a sudden, I'm hearing beeping. Everything is beeping in here because I'm in my bedroom where my desktop is. Everything in here is beeping like crazy. My internet goes out. My power does not flicker at once, and I find out from what I could guess because this one thing over here by the window was beeping madly. That lightning must have struck like within a couple of feet outside my bedroom window.
Wow.
And I never heard the thunder at all. It knocked my internet out for 2 days. And I was not happy. So, but and at that point, I get more frightened of lightning. So that's kind of strange. But
yeah.
I assume you probably have gotten some close calls in your time.
Lightning is one of the scariest things for me. Because you never know when it's going to hit, and you're always at risk from it. And it does really scary things to you, like weird neurological damage, and that's pretty scary. Like, it can really mess you up. So lightning spooks me definitely, and when it hits that close like that, it's just one loud pop, so you don't hear the loud rolling thunder. It's just one big,
bang.
One bang. Yep. One instant bang.
I have yet to see a lightning strike. That was likely because I wasn't sure where it hit, but when it hit something and it beeped this one thing, and I'll tell you right now, that thing that was beeping is battery powered. I don't know how lightning can all of a sudden cause something that's battery powered to go off. That told me that the lightning strike was very close or something, but my power never went off, which was weird. I don't know why. All I lost was my cable phone and internet. So
it influences the nearby electrical field significantly. Close strikes always interfere with my video camera. When I'm shooting, there's a bolt real close. You'll see it in the video. The video will glitch. So
I would mention that with that lightning bolt that did hit, I did lose my router.
Yeah.
My router was clear over on the other side, away from the window, and it got hit. But my phone and my answering machine, no damage. It still works.
That's good. For some reason, routers can seem like they're a little bit flaky sometimes, I don't know. They're like more delicate pieces of electronics or something. In
my, gosh, what is it? My three or 4 years that I've had routers, note I'm saying multiples, I'm right now on my 4th router. I'm going through routers like food or anymore because I still have the router that broke. I still have this. I can't show it, but it's right there. I You can't
There's
see it
some
because I don't.
problem files out there like Linksys and Cisco gear, and I have most trouble with that stuff. Netgear too sometimes.
Yep, that's the one that broke on mine. My third one was a Netgear, and I replaced it with another one.
Yeah.
The other ones were I don't remember what they were, but that's not what we didn't talk. We're not going to talk about electronics, although we could do that because it seems like with all the gear you have, that could take an hour.
Yeah, I am kind of a gear geek. So
So we can go into first off, how did you get into this business of weather storm chasing? What happened to you? What happened to poor Skip in his young years to get himself in this?
yeah, so here's my story. The event, and most chasers have one, was Plainfield. And at that, I think a lot of chasers share that event. Uh, August 28th, so the anniversary was yesterday, the 24-year anniversary. I was 7 years old at the time, and I lived about 7 miles from the damage path, and it was F5. So, and it hit without warning. So that storm actually just had a severe thunderstorm warning, and an F5 hit. So, and that's really unprecedented. I mean, for that to happen today, that would be exceptional. So that would be obscene. And Ted Fujita, inventor of the F scale, he said that he surveyed that damage personally. He said it was the worst damage he'd ever seen. So that at a young age, that really deeply impacted me. So that's why I got interested in tornadoes. And I always had this deep fascination with tornadoes since that event. And it wasn't until I saw the movie Twister in 1996 that I actually knew that storm chasing was a thing that people did. I mean, I saw shows like the Nova documentary, which had storm chasers in it, but to me those were scientists doing a very specialized research mission, you know, in the Great Plains close to their universities or whatever. I didn't realize that people got out and they drove, into and around tornadoes until I saw that movie. So I am not ashamed to admit that my interest in storm chasing was largely sparked by that movie. Now, did I jump in a car and immediately start chasing tornadoes after I saw that movie? No. I mean, I was 13 at the time, so I was just kind of an enamored kid, and I started reading up on storm chasing, all the essays and chase logs from all the veteran storm chasers, and logging onto the forums, going on weather chase forums and the old storm track, and just reading up on it. It wasn't until I was in college in 2003, so like 7 years later, that I eventually started. I thought I had enough knowledge to go out there and start doing it myself. So, and that's how I kind of got into it. So, lifelong interest, and in college I just started doing it.
Yeah, I'd bring up the point that the movie Twister. I always bring this up if people bring it up. My sister was in that movie.
Oh yeah.
She was one of the extras in the drive-in part.
Nice.
Where they're running through away from the tornado.
That
I always point it out as to say, there she goes. Okay.
Yeah. That's a frightening scene. A big nocturnal wedge like that. It's just super, super scary.
Yeah, the funny thing about it is, because since my sister was in it, they were doing it in the middle of the day and there was nothing there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because that was all put in later.
So they shot this scene during the day even. See, I didn't even know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, supposedly they did it or at sunset or something, because I remember my sister mentioned that.
Wow.
I'm not sure if that was somewhat true. They may have had part of it was done and part of it was not. I mean, you can kind of tell.
Yeah, I mean, the lighting's pretty good during that scene, so yeah, maybe they did shoot it during the when there was light in the sky and then go back and post and change it to night. Interesting.
Yeah, so and of course a lot of the scenes were were filmed in Iowa. The rest were filmed in Oklahoma. So, and it's funny. I've been to what is known as Twister Hill, the infamous hill at the early part of the movie, early to middle part. I've been there.
Which hill is that? Like, what scene in the movie is that?
That is with when the first Dorothy falls out of the thing and all the little tiddly things go flying all over the road and the tornadoes at the top of the hill just going all over the place.
Oh, yeah, that looks like Iowa. Sure.
Yeah, that's near Boone.
Cool.
And they're crossing a river, and I'm thinking the first, and this is geeky Jeff coming. Okay, first off, I'm looking at the tornado, and it's going all over the place, and the first thing you're thinking of, ooh, you're looking west. Wrong. You're looking east. The tornado would be moving from north to south, which is a little odd because most tornadoes don't do that. Some do. But I could just go off on that movie. It's like, that tornado's moving the wrong way.
Oh, yeah, you
that
could make
doesn't do
that documentary with all of the technical glitches in that movie.
Yeah, so, but anyway, so you started in 2003, which was about the time I stopped, because I didn't want to keep doing it. A, I didn't have a very good camera. B, I didn't have a laptop to, even though it was 2003, it wasn't as sophisticated as it is now. I had a car that didn't want to go very far, or I didn't trust, so I got out of it pretty much after 2003. And I caught wall clouds, rotating wall clouds. Yeah. I had a rotating wall cloud go under me once.
Nice.
And I always make this story. During that time, this is the best story. I don't know if you've run into this yet. Where I came up to that storm, the rotating storm. This was only like 10 miles from where I was living at the time. And I pull up in my car, and I get out with my weather radio and my camera, and I'm like, ooh, look at me, storm chaser. This girl comes up and says, are you a storm chaser? I'm like, I guess, I don't know. Oh, blah, blah, blah. She wanted to come with me. I'm like,
yeah.
She was on the side of the road. Her mother had left her there to see the tornado if there was going to be one. She wanted to go with me, and she said, oh, I'm going to give you your phone number. I got a girl's phone number. A tornado, a wall cloud's going over me. It's like, I always make that story, and I'm thinking, that's just strange. I'm picking up girls at tornado disasters. I don't know if that's happened to you, but
oh yeah, and that's why people decorate their cars and make armored vehicles, because they're trying to pick up women, and it happens. The women, they see the armored vehicles and the instruments on the roof, and hey, why don't you want to take a ride with me, and it works pretty well. Sure. So, no, actually, I had another funny story that's kind of similar. So, I'm in south of Yankton, South Dakota, on the Nebraska side, and I'm in some little tiny town. And on the roof of my van, I have like an acrylic dome with a video camera underneath. It always turns heads. And I'm driving to Yankton, and some woman in a beater was driving through town, and she sees this thing on the roof of my van, and she stops, and she's looking at it, and she finally says to me from her car, "What's that on your roof? Is that for women?" And I, without skipping a beat, I was just like, yes, it is. And she just shook her head and drove off. So.
Oh, good grief! Now you're chasing tornadoes and women.
Yeah.
Well.
So, I don't know what she meant. Maybe I was like gonna pick up women with it, or I'm shooting like a Girls Gone Wild type thing. I don't know. Girls Gone Wild, Yankton, South Dakota. I don't know.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think you'd want to. Is that what chasers would do if there's like a bust? You start just doing crazy stuff.
Sure. You got to find something to shoot. So yeah. There's a guy in Oklahoma. He's bringing his own models with him. So, these women. He poses these women in front of the storms too. So we saw that a couple couple years
Oh,
ago.
brother.
Yeah.
I'm finding out all the nitty gritty. Adam never told me all this stuff, so.
Oh yeah, it's pretty funny. It's a circus down in Oklahoma. We stopped. We were one of the first chasers in this spot, you know, and everybody shows up. And in the course of about 2 minutes, we had the Dominator and its caravan drive past, and then the storm riders from the Weather Channel went by, and you know, so they were hanging out the window shooting, and then this truck pulls up right in front of us. Not a problem because I'm shooting over them. I don't care. Like, people are going to stop and park by us. That's fine. But out come these women, you know, in bras and cut off jean shorts, and they're taking pictures and posing in front of this wall cloud. So we got a good kick out of that. It was pretty funny.
I'm sure that video is not on YouTube, or is it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, I posted it like a month ago. So yeah, you can see the scene. It's pretty funny.
I'm sure there's a bunch of kind of snickering.
Yeah, it's pretty humorous. So.
But since you started in 2003, how many tornadoes have you actually captured in your time?
So I like to keep a strict tally, and I know a lot of chasers don't. And I actually don't know what the count is off of the top of my head because I have several chase logs I have yet to write, but I want to say it's somewhere in the low 90s. And the number is very subjective because some storm chasers will count this as a tornado and others won't. So it's kind of a personal thing for me, you know, to count tornadoes, and everybody's got a different count. So you know, you would think a tornado is kind of a discrete object that you either saw it or you don't, or you know, it's a tornado or it isn't. But you know, there's a big gray area there on what constitutes a tornado. So.
And I would assume you don't count the same tornado in multiple locations.
No, I mean if it's the same tornado, I don't count. I mean if it's the same circulation. Sure, it's the same tornado. And you'll see chasers that, even though the condensation funnel has lifted, and there may be debris or at least the circulation still in progress, and it recondenses, they'll count it as a separate tornado. I typically don't. You know, it's got to occlude, and I got to have a new circulation form for me to count it. I mean, and some chasers are counting suction vortices as separate tornadoes. And
yeah, no.
Other chasers are super strict where, you know, they'll see what I would call a satellite tornado, and they will just lump that in with the main tornado. So I would count that as 2, they would count it as 1. So, I mean, there's a huge differences there. And you'll see that in people's chase logs. You know, some people will say, well, I got 8 tornadoes today. And I'm like, okay, well, I only got 2, you know, because, you know, I didn't count. There were 3 dust whirls, and I think all 3 of those were the same tornado. So, you know, it's that kind of stuff. But yeah, about 90, and most in the last few years. So it took me a year to see my first tornado, and it took me another year to see my second tornado, and almost 3 years to see my third. So it was kind of slow going at the start, but those last few years I've seen a bunch. So.
Have you ever seen an EF5? I would assume so.
This is officially no. I've never seen an EF5, and to be honest, I never want to see an EF5. That is something that's a record that I would like to maintain. To me, the EF5 holds this dark stigma that it's a killer and it's a destroyer. Because to be an F5, that's what it's got to do. It has to wipe a house clean off the slab, and you know, all somebody's memories and possessions and all of their hopes and dreams wiped clean. And those ones are always the killers. And so I hope I never see that. I want to see a big, powerful wedge tornado, but I want to see it in the middle of nowhere when it's going over a field. So if I see an EF5, and I imagine I will at some point, it's going to be a dark day. Now here's the other thing. is I have seen tornadoes that were EF5 capable. So, for example, the Bowdle tornado in South Dakota, May 22, 2010, that tornado ripped high-tension power lines out of the concrete anchors. And they almost rated at 5 because of that. And then there's El Reno. Now, they measured 300-mile-an-hour winds in that tornado, which is well above the F5 threshold. But again, that tornado tracked over open terrain. I mean, it did not hit many buildings at all. And those subvortices inside of that huge tornado were mainly over open terrain. So, I mean, I've seen tornadoes. I've seen the biggest and strongest that tornadoes get. Have I seen an official EF5? No. And again, I hope never to.
Now, I would assume that, because I know you were in northwest Iowa last fall, and you were on what was an EF4, I believe it was, yes. And and if I remember right, I think you got too close. If I was right.
I had some distance on it, but I was in the path. So I get really close to tornadoes as long as I'm not in immediate danger from them. And in that case, I was in danger, even though I wasn't that close. There's a lot of storm chasers who get video from a lot closer range, but just the fact that I was in the path made it kind of a dangerous situation. And it took me a while to realize it because I was setting up my cameras. So I got a visual of the tornado, and it was a wedge, and I'm shooting it for a couple minutes, and I finally stopped to look at the tornado, and I realized it has no left to right motion. It's basically coming right at me, and you know, it's at that point where I pulled my escape route and drove away from it. And it got a little tense there because I left my sliding door on the van open, so as I'm driving away, I realized my door is still open. Do I stop and shut it, or do I make sure I get out of there? You know, I could lose all my gear if it falls out the door. I stopped and I shut it, and I made it out of there no problem. It got a little tense there, though, at the end because I turned east to get out of the path. And as I was going east, the bear's cage was coming up from the south up to my position, and you could see the spiraling rain bands starting to approach and almost up to the road. And you know, and that's giving me flashbacks to El Reno, where you know Tim Samaras is trying to escape east, and the bear's cage with the spiraling rain band starts to engulf him. So, and then a transformer exploded in the field to my right, and it wasn't right next to the road. It was, you know, it could have been at a quarter or a half mile or a mile away, but I could still see this bright flash off to my right. Tornado was becoming rain wrapped in the bear's cage, and it was hairy and tense getting out of there. But I pulled that escape without any issue. So, in fact, I didn't even get any rain. I cleared the bear's cage completely. So I got out of there with probably a couple minutes to spare. But you know, I don't like to be in the path of a tornado ever.
With that for a lot of storm chasers, that was pretty much the big event after El Reno, because from what I remember, is I don't think there was much of anything after El Reno until that October, except for some isolated activities.
Yeah, you're right. October 4 last year was the first big tornado event after El Reno, definitely.
And it's like, I think a lot of people were thinking, especially when you mentioned that it was almost like El Reno again, that I think a lot of people, I'm wondering if a lot of people probably thought the same way, where we had several EF4s and several other tornadoes. It was the largest outbreak in Iowa last year, and the year we had hardly any tornadoes. Yeah. And then you had, it's like the fall last year was the tornadoes that never ended, because then you had the November outbreak.
Yeah.
Which probably for you, it was like, oh, I only have to drive 25 miles to a tornado.
Yeah, those last two events really made my season. The October 4 event was exceptional for me. That was one of the highlights of my year. And November 17, that was a very, very tough, difficult chase. And I knew it would be. The storms are moving, more faster than 60 miles an hour. And when they're moving that fast, I generally anticipate getting in front of the storm, shooting it, and then watching it go away. I can't really chase a storm that's moving that fast. And I tried. I got on. My initial intercept was near Lincoln, Illinois, and I was deciding between the Washington storm and the Lincoln storm, and I was kind of in between them. And I thought, well, I'm in between them. I might actually fall behind the Washington storm, so I'm going to let that one go, and I'm going to go for this Lincoln storm. On the way to Lincoln, I knew I was missing the show. I could see on the radar that was putting down a violent tornado. And I got on the Lincoln storm, and it was tornado warned, and it had a hook, but there was no tornado underneath it. And my heart immediately sunk because I pretty much knew at that point that I was not going to see a tornado. Just the fact that there's the storm and there's no tornado, my chase is probably over because these storms are moving so incredibly fast. But Illinois has a paved road grid, and I was able to stay with that storm for a few minutes. I finally let it go as it approached near Bloomington, and I hook sliced a storm coming up out of southern Champaign County off to the east. So I had to give it everything I had heading east to head off this storm that was coming up from the south before it crossed. And I hook sliced it, and I just for a few seconds saw a low contrast wedge moving in front of me, and I got just a few seconds of that tornado, and I immediately then hit the damage path because I was coming in behind it, and that was the first time I encountered a house that had been just recently freshly hit by a big significant tornado, and that was really the first time that I went in that situation to see if anybody needed help, and there was a woman injured inside, and I was able to bring her out and call for help, but that was a first for me, so again, a pretty intense, dramatic moment.
Was there any other times during in your many years of chasing that you were scared?
Oh yeah. There's plenty of times where you're in a bad position and you're nervous about those situations. My thought has always been that if you're scared on a chase, you've screwed up, you've made mistakes, and you shouldn't be there, and you should have been doing something else. And usually it's a series of mistakes. It starts with, well, I was in a bad position, and then I wasn't maintaining my escape route, and then I didn't take my escape route when I needed to. It adds up over time. But yeah, you make mistakes, and there's been a few times where you're caught in. Usually, what happens is I'm caught in the bear's cage region, the rear flanking downdraft clear slot in the storm, and the winds are rapidly changing directions, and I can't see really what's going on. There's so much rain and low visibility, and the structure that I would be looking for is over my head, so I can't really make it out. And those are the moments where when you get caught in that position that you're most nervous or scared even. But I really try to keep that to a minimum and try to avoid those situations as much as possible. But I mean, it does happen from time to time. So
yeah, so there's several events that you've covered over the years. We can go through several of them. I know you were, I think you were at Henryville in 2012, I think it was, March 2nd.
Yep.
So we could.
Yeah.
I've watched that video numerous times because then I get on this case. Okay, where is Skip? Oh, he's at this truck stop. So then I look it up on Google Maps. I'm like, so you can talk about that event because I would assume that was the first event for 2012, given the fact that it was in March.
Those early March high risks are always big roller coasters, and they're always extreme shear, low cape events, meaning your storms are usually very fast moving, and this shear is so extreme that you actually don't need any instability. The dynamic forcing from I think we had more than 100 knots at 500 millibars. The dynamic forcing from that actually forces the updraft up in the absence of cape. So we had a storm that hit Indianapolis that morning, and the cape was less than 1,000. and there were baseballs coming out of that storm, and we saw cars driving around with no windows. So we were coming in from the north in the morning, and we got caught up in traffic, so we thought we were going to miss the show, but we made it. And we see this supercell coming, and it had been warned for hours. I mean, it formed in Illinois, and it was trucking all the way across southern Indiana. Tornado warned the entire time, and we thought we're going to miss the show, we're coming in late. There's no place to catch it because we have to go into southern Indiana where the terrain is awful, there's no visibility. Coming in down 64 South, and I'm trying to get us kind of, in line to see the tornado, so more or less in the path. And we actually got off in Henryville. The first exit we took was the Henryville exit, and Henryville is a pretty small town. We drove into Henryville, and we got off the interstate, and I'm looking for, a view. Where can we stop to see this tornado? Because when we exited to the west, there were big hills and trees. Couldn't see anything. So I thought, let's drive through town, and maybe we'll get a view on the other side of town. And we come up to the main stop in town, and here is an entire line of school buses at the stop sign, and the sirens are wailing, and that really scared me. That's really frightening to see that, because here's a dozen school buses loaded with kids, and they are in the immediate path of a violent tornado. So, and I mean, we didn't know there was a violent tornado heading right for that spot at the time, of course, but I mean, when I see that, I really get worried. So we had no view, and I didn't like the traffic at that intersection at all. So we actually pulled a U-turn right there, went back on the interstate and went to the next exit south, and that's where that truck stop was. And that truck stop was a miracle because the terrain is so awful down there. This truck stop was perched on a hill with a clear view to the west. So, I mean, we just couldn't ask for a better spot. And then, so we stopped there, and then as soon as we stopped, we could see it, the tornado way off in the distance, maybe 10, 15 miles away, but it was coming in fast. We could see it coming, and just it went, the entire time right in front of us there. So really dramatic, and to be able to sit there and tripod that tornado for minutes and minutes, that was an exceptional chase for us to be able to do that. And then of course it tracked right through that intersection, about 20 to 30 minutes after we had been there. So.
Yeah. And what other events have you covered that are of significance? We won't want to go through every single one unless you want to.
I could talk for all night about it. I've covered in great detail the El Reno event, and I don't know if you've seen some of the videos I made, but that to me was one of my most significant and also one of my worst chases, just because it was such a dark, terrible day, and I really had to understand what happened and went wrong on that event. So I spent a great deal of time studying and trying to cover that event. That was probably one of the most significant events I've chased. I think that will always be remembered as one of the most. It's probably the darkest chase day ever, because that was the day we lost, Tim, Paul, and Carl, obviously, and the first tornado to kill chasers, and really, storm chasing's innocence went away that day. The danger got real. So, from a chasing standpoint, that was probably the most significant event I've been on. Other big tornado days. I could rattle off my top 3 chases real quick. June 17th, 2010, we saw 10 tornadoes in southern Minnesota, including an F4. And it was just tornado after tornado after tornado, nonstop for about an hour and a half. And that was amazing to be able to see that. Probably my best chase of all time. Tied for first or a close second is going to be the May 22 Bowdle event. Another F4 wedge, 6 tornadoes we saw that day on an amazing supercell storm. We avoided getting stuck in the mud like the other chasers that got trapped that day. So luckily we got out of there and missed that fun. And then this last event in Nebraska, Pilger, Nebraska, with the twin tornadoes. That's probably my number 3 chase now, definitely. That was the first time I've seen concurrent violent tornadoes. I mean, I've seen two tornadoes on the ground at the same time, but usually it's a wedge and a rope or something like that. And we had two simultaneous violent tornadoes. Our best catch that day was actually the tornado that followed, the Wakefield EF4, and we were close enough to hear that one. And then actually, and we just kind of figured this out, what we thought was a satellite tornado was actually, I think, the Pilger tornado kind of reformed and actually became, the Pilger EF4 became a satellite of the Wakefield EF4. It's really mind-blowing to think about, but studying the radar, the damage path, and the video, we're pretty sure that's what happened. So, and we saw 3 EF4s that day. The storm produced 4 EF4s. We missed the first one. But yeah, that chase was right up there at the top. So I mean, those are my more significant chases. I mean, and in just those 3 chases, you're looking at maybe a third of the tornadoes I've seen total. So I don't know.
We could go into a lot of the busts, which seem to all happen in Iowa.
I was 0 and 25 before I saw my first Iowa tornado. So. So it's a running gag with chasers, and you've heard it many times from Adam and everybody else that Iowa's cursed. Iowa, it's always a bust in Iowa. But yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to get a tornado in Iowa. And since then, though, I've seen several really big, significant tornadoes. Creston, Mapleton. We saw 5 or 6 tornadoes on the Mapleton night. The one on October 4 last year too. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I know with a lot of the things, I know Mapleton was a night tornado. It was pretty much at dusk and into the night, if I remember right.
The EF3 that hit Mapleton occurred in the early evening hours, so it's still daylight.
And the rest of them occurred because they were going well into after dark.
The rest of them were nocturnal, and nocturnal tornadoes are not as nice because you don't really get to see them as much. You just catch them from the lightning flashes, but still a very dramatic show. I mean, there were a couple times where there were 2 down at the same time in all different shapes, stovepipes, cones. We caught a wedge that night. The wedge was rated EF4. So, and yeah, just another crazy chase.
I would assume you don't like chasing at night, though.
I don't prefer it. I would much rather chase during the day. If I know it's going to be a night intercept, I probably won't go just because it's really not worth it to me. I don't end the chase at night unless I have to. So I don't have anything against night chasing. It is more dangerous. But I think if you take the right precaution, it's still safe. What I usually wind up doing at night is just backing off a few miles. So we were really close to Mapleton, about a half mile from that tornado. But once we watched the later tornadoes from a distance of about 3 to 5 miles. So we were quite a ways away. We were in clear air where it was clear air overhead, nice balmy night, and we could see the tornadoes in the distance. I know. But yeah, I don't prefer night chasing, but I don't, if I've got nothing else going for me, I'll do a night intercept, sure.
And a lot of the time you drive, most of the time, not all the time, you drive straight from Springfield out to chasing and then drive back home. I've seen that several times.
Yeah, it's what we call marathon chasing. Rather than making a pre-planned trip and taking it one step at a time, I'm going there and back right away. And usually I'll leave, if it's in the plains, I'll usually leave the night before and get some driving in at night, which is nice because there's no traffic. And then I like to camp in my van, so I drive a minivan. And I've got a full twin mattress in the back and a cooler packed with food. So I mean, I can be self-sustained in my vehicle for days. I don't need to really go anywhere or get anything, so except gas. And so I'll just pull off as soon as I start to get tired and get some sleep, and then I'll chase the next day, usually all day into the night, and then maybe camp again and then drive home the next day. So that's usually how I do a one-day chase trip to the plains.
And I would assume, given the fact with Sunday's event that could be interesting, you might do that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, for Sunday, I've been looking at Sunday. I'm not sure where I'm going to go. There's two places in particular I'm looking at. The first would be actually the target I'm watching most right now is Albert Lee, Minnesota. So there's like a confluence line kind of being depicted on the GFS and the NAM, where it looks like storms are going to fire in south central Minnesota in the afternoon. That would be my first pick, just because I like the shear profiles up there a lot.
And because you had all those tornadoes in southern Minnesota around Albert Lee.
Yeah, I June 17th, 2010 was Minnesota's biggest outbreak in over 60 years. And so to say that Sunday is going to be like June 17th is ridiculous. But the setup is somewhat similar in some of the surface pattern features. Like there's a surface trough, there's this confluence line, and the cold front's lagging to the west. So, and that's what happened on June 17th. As the storms did not fire on the cold front dry line, they formed well east of it along this surface trough.
Yeah.
And that's part of why that event went so bonkers. And I'm seeing some of that with this event too. I'm seeing some similar surface patterns. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be a repeat or even a tornado outbreak, but that's what's got my attention there. My secondary target would be Omaha, just because right off the nose of the low, it's kind of a more conventional, classic storm chasing target, I think. So. Right off the nose of the low there, and maybe a tail end Charlie type storm on that line that's going to form in Minnesota down to the south. So
Yeah.
what's going to screw up Sunday is going to be the morning MCS. I think a big MCS is probably going to rake through Minnesota and Iowa and most of Nebraska. That might ruin the northern play, and that might limit you down to south central Nebraska. And the capping is an issue down there. And we're starting to lose our upper level support, so it's not a slam dunk. I mean, it rarely is, but it looks like a chaseable setup right now.
Yeah, we were discussing that it seems like Iowa is like the weather term for screwing up severe weather risks. Like they could take Iowa completely out, because you said Albert Lee, Omaha. I did not hear Fort Dodge, Ames, or Atlantic, or Council Bluffs. Oh, I don't want to be on the Iowa side. I won't get anything. So I'll be right on the Missouri River. I'll be on the river side if I have to be.
Iowa doesn't look bad, and I was looking at that area. Very rich moisture, high instability. The shear's all there. To me, it's kind of in between the targets, and it could definitely go. So, I mean, to me, Northwest Iowa is definitely in play on Sunday. So
Hey, go back to that field.
Yeah.
East of Sioux City. I'm sure there'll be people we'll see storm chasers converging everywhere. That's the one thing that I saw for the first time because we do severe weather coverage for the state, the whole state. Imagine we don't sleep.
Yeah.
And I was seeing so many chasers in one spot. I had never seen chaser convergence in Iowa because I have the spotter network on my Gibson Ridge, and I couldn't even see the storm anymore because there was just cluttered with spotters or storm chasers.
On which day?
This is going to kill people. It's going to be El Reno. I fear El Reno is going to happen again, or nobody learned anything from El Reno, and we have to. How many more chasers will end up? Or I won't. I'll take that back. How many yahoos that aren't chasers but are going to be labeled as chasers are going to ruin it for everybody else? So something like that.
You're absolutely right. I don't think anyone's going to ruin it for anybody. I think you'll always be able to chase. But you're right about El Reno. People did not learn from El Reno. Some did. A lot of people didn't. The first two big tornado events after El Reno, October 4 in Nebraska and Iowa and November 17th in Illinois, we had storm chasers hit by tornadoes on both of those events. So immediately after El Reno, we had storm chasers hit by tornadoes. So it tells me that, yes, you're right. We're going to see, there are going to be inexperienced locals and yahoos that are going to get killed. And unfortunately, we're also going to see very experienced storm chasers get killed. And I'm pretty sure of that. And the reason is because, you know, the behavior and the chase style and the tactics that were used in El Reno are still being used today. And it's going to be a combination of the very inexperienced driving into a significant, exceptional event, and also the most aggressive storm chasers, those who are trying to get as close as they possibly can and really push the envelope. I think we're going to see deaths again on both of those fronts, which is exactly what happened on El Reno. We had the most experienced storm chasers who are also the most aggressive and the most daring in their positioning get killed, which would be Samaras. And we also had some very, very inexperienced storm chasers on an exceptional event that didn't know what they were doing and got killed. So, and yeah, we will absolutely see it again. It's just a matter of having that event. And that event happens every year, and it's just a matter of luck that we don't see more deaths, I think, because we have a mile-plus wide rain-wrapped violent wedge under an HP storm every single year, and there are close calls every year. So unfortunately, that's the reality of it. But hopefully, hopefully we can learn from El Reno. We can kind of try and teach newer chasers, and maybe it's a wake-up call for others. It certainly was for me. I consider myself a very aggressive chaser, but I mean El Reno really, really, really spooked me. So yeah.
But do you think it's ever going to change? Or people are still going to be reckless and going 100 miles an hour to go chase a tornado? I've seen it happen before.
It's changed some chasers, and others it has not. And again, because of that, we will see more storm chaser deaths. I guarantee it. It's just a matter of time. So yeah, while people did learn from it, others did not, and those are the people at risk. So
I know we have chasers in our group that we have their live streams that we do when we do our severe weather coverage. And we were so excited because finally, for the first time when we were doing live coverage, we actually had a tornado on the ground, really close. And this was funny. TVN, Reed Timmer's group, one of their chasers out on a tornado in Iowa. And they showed the tornado. And here it is. And what you see in the video, you see this road, this gravel road that comes to a 90-degree turn that goes to the north from the east. The tornado is moving northwest to southeast. I'm sure you may have seen this video. Maybe, maybe not.
Which event is it?
What?
Which event is it?
This was, gosh, which one was it? It was July 6th.
Yeah.
It was the tornado in Traer.
Yeah.
The second Traer tornado. Traer had been hit by a tornado the week before. If you had been in Traer, you would have seen two tornadoes. One was in EF2, one was in EF1. One went south, one went north. And you see the TVN guy. He's on the top of this little hill, and there's a 90-degree turn to the north. The tornado is to his north, and it's moving southeast. You see him taking the video. You see down at where the road turns, you see another car, and everybody says, "Well, that person has balls." I will mention that was our chaser, and we were live streamed with his video at that time. Let's just say that was the first time we ever saw debris actually hitting the camera. That was not cool. That was also the first time I ever saw a tornado just take trees and just loft them into the air. And that I wasn't there. Luckily I was lovely here at in my apartment. But the funny thing was the tornado at that time was, gosh, 60 miles away. But that was the first time, and I was very concerned because that was a little bit too creepy for us. But yeah, it was fairly weak. It was only an EF1. It didn't even spark the power lines or anything. So I don't know if you'd want to get close to an EF1. I mean, an EF1 is an EF1, but you don't know if the EF1 is going to turn into EF5 in like 5 seconds. So.
Exactly. I mean, it's tough to gauge the strength of this of the tornado. I mean, you can to a certain extent, but and again, if there's debris hitting the camera, I'm probably not going to be able to fit the tornado in my frame. I've got a really wide-angle lens, but if I can't fit the tornado in the frame at 10 millimeters, then I'm too close. And usually you're only a few feet away at that point. But really, I mean, there is such a thing as getting so close that you actually have less good video. So I mean, the sweet spot is not as close as you can get. It's to me where you can frame the tornado in a nice shot, you know. So you don't have to get extremely close like a lot of people try to do, but.
So the thing about it was that he had zoomed in a little bit, but he was still very close.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked at it on a Google map after they did the storm survey, and he wasn't even in the damage path at all, which was odd, because it was only going through farm fields. It was pretty much ripping corn, and then it went into a grove of trees to his southeast and just ripped them. Started lofting trees, and I was like, I have never seen that, and I thought for sure EF3 or something. No, EF1. I'm like, guess those trees were like, I mean, I could pull them out with my hand, I guess, if they're that weak.
I could be wrong, but I think the damage indicators on the EF scale, they have vegetation damage indicators, and I think at max they go up to EF2. I don't think there's any EF3 indicators for trees. I could be wrong, but I don't think there are.
Yeah. And it depends on if they were windbreaker trees, which tend to be lofted pretty easily.
Right.
There's a lot of windbreakers type trees, the trees that grow really fast, but then they fall over so easily.
Yeah.
Those trees will tend to just get ripped up and flung into the air easily.
I saw the video, and it would have been rated higher if it hit a populated area, definitely. So yeah. I mean, it's just a matter of what it hits and what it doesn't.
It's similar to like El Reno, which didn't hit anything.
Right.
Very few places.
I mean, a lot of people to me get hung up on the EF scale. You know, like, how big was the tornado? What was that? What was it rated? You know, and to me, it's a damage scale. It's not a tornado strength scale. It's not how big the tornado was, how powerful the tornado was. It's what damage did it do. You know, so. You know, I think people like to kind of compare the tornadoes they saw by the EF scale, and I think they're just comparing, well, what that tornado you saw, what did it ruin? You know, and a lot of people like to gloat and brag even that they saw in EF5. I'm like, oh, I saw an EF5, and they're like, okay, you saw a tornado that killed people and crushed their dreams. You know, is that something you really want to brag about? But yeah, I mean, definitely that tornado was a significant tornado. I saw the video. It had the potential. It was a strong tornado. It wasn't, you know, I would not underestimate that tornado at all. So even if it is rated EF1 or EF2, you know, it had the potential there.
Yeah, we had. I always bring this up, but I'll bring it up again. We had 2 fatalities this year from an EF1 tornado that was not warned. So we go all the way back to the thing about Plainfield. Well, we had one that was not tornado warned. It was at the end of its lifetime. It went 45 miles. Wasn't warned till the end.
Wow.
So it was in a squall line.
Yeah, I remember that. Was that in June?
No, it was the same day, I believe, as the Valonia, Arkansas tornado again.
Okay.
In this year.
I remember an event that happened like that, where it was in the squall line, and I remember a lot of people, some forecasters or broadcasters taking some flack over that, but I mean, it's in a squall line, and the squall line was at least severe warned, wasn't it?
It was severe warned, yes.
There's
and the 2 people that died outdoors where they were taking shelter from the severe thunderstorm. They weren't
Right.
expecting a tornado to come and
Well,
take them away.
here's the thing, though. You've got a severe thunderstorm warning, which people really don't give a damn about. And even I kind of shrug at a severe thunderstorm warning, but really, you should take it seriously. And the people who don't, they're going to pay a price for that. And there were severe winds in that storm, and people did not take adequate shelter, and they paid for it. And it's tragic, but the storm was warned, and a severe thunderstorm warning can include the possibility of tornadoes. So um, you wouldn't expect a violent wedge with a severe thunderstorm warning, but yeah, spin-ups and smaller tornadoes and tornadoes embedded in squall lines, mesovortex tornadoes, that kind of stuff. I mean, really, the warning should encompass that. And if you're outside under trees or in a trailer or in a shed or under an overhang, and the thing collapses on you, that was you not heeding the warning and not taking proper shelter.
And is it getting to the point that even some chasers are like severe thunderstorm warning on that?
Oh yeah, oh definitely. I'm guilty of that. On May 21, we were in Kansas, and storm was severe warned, and so you underestimate it. You're like, oh, there's no threat here. We're driving underneath the wall cloud, and then we're very surprised then when there's a tornado, because the storm's not warned for tornadoes, and and that's me being reckless because I'm underestimating the storm and I'm not taking it seriously, just based on the warning. So yeah, and there's people who definitely do that.
Is it to the point that you start to you're like, ooh, I want tornado warnings? Is it almost like you want tornadoes, but then you don't want the tornadoes because the tornadoes could be big tornadoes that could kill people? I mean, a tornado out in the middle of nowhere, everybody would probably want that because they're not going to hit much.
Right.
But a tornado going through like Norman, Oakland, or Moore, or let's say we'll start Springfield or Chicago or whatever. I don't think anybody wants that. I don't care if it's an EF1. An EF1 going through something like Chicago is going to kill somebody.
Yeah, those are the tornadoes I don't want. I don't chase urban areas. It's just too dangerous and too difficult. And I don't want to see tornadoes hit stuff, but they do. And unfortunately, there are some chasers, and I'm certainly not one of them. I consider myself kind of along the lines of some of the old school chasers, who are kind of going out for a pretty storm and a small pretty tornado in the middle of nowhere. Kind of more like a leisurely storm chaser. But there are some storm chasers out there who they have to see it hit towns and do damage, and that's their main catch, because their main goal is to sell that footage to the news, and or to be famous. And in order to really get recognized and to have your footage be valuable, it has to destroy things. The media does not care if you see a pretty pink rogue tornado in western Kansas that does EF0 damage. They don't care at all about that. They care when the F5 hits Moore. And there are some chasers who that's what they live for, is they live for the Moore EF5 event. That would be the crowning achievement of their career, and to me that would be one of the darkest stains on my career, is being present for the tornado that ruined so many lives.
Is it to the point that a lot of chasers want to sell that video because, and I've used this term before, if it bleeds, it leads? Meaning if people are injured and they're bleeding and whatnot, it leads and it's like a big thing?
Yeah, I mean, the storm chasing is very checkered, and there's a lot of people coming from a lot of different angles. Is there more of that? Maybe, maybe. I think there's more leisurely and recreational chasers too. Is it becoming more like that, or are we seeing a shift towards that kind of chasing? people going after damage and injuries and stuff. I don't know. I don't think so. I think there's more of a push for that, but I think chasing in general is just getting larger.
When do you think you'll know if it's time to stop, or will you ever stop?
I tell myself that I'll never stop chasing. To me, storm chasing is like a lifelong passion. It's a dream of mine, and it's something I pursue. I think about storm chasing every single day. I mean, it kind of dominates my life. It's almost obsessive, and I try to keep it in a healthy check. I try not to let it get in the way of things like work and family. But yeah, it's such a big part of my life that I don't think I'll ever stop chasing. And in order to keep that mentality, I've been very much trying to remind myself of why I chase, and what keeps chasing fun, and something I don't have to feel guilty or ashamed or about. So again, I like to catch pretty tornadoes out in the middle of nowhere. I like to travel the Great Plains. I love the scenery. I love doing touristy things. I love going hiking. I enjoy a big supercell and structure, and basically I'm out there to have fun and to really experience life, not to witness death and destruction. And if I were going out there to sell footage, then storm chasing to me would just be a job. I do sell my video when it's worth something, but that's not why I chase. I don't want to turn chasing into a job, and I also don't want to be ashamed or guilty that I'm chasing an event that could be potentially deadly. I remind myself that the weather happens and it does what it does, whether I'm there to see it or not. And that I help out where I can, either as a spotter, as someone who's sending aid, or someone who's helping out afterwards. And I have to remind myself that I will see damage, and I may see people that are hurt, and that that's probably going to happen, and I need to be aware of that. But it should not detract from why I'm out there or change what I'm doing.
So, well, I mean, you're gonna. I know you fly.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and I think if I read that you've actually thought about flying to storms or something. Am I right about that?
I have chased tornado-warned storms 6 times now in an airplane. Our first aerial chase was May 25th of 2012. We rented a Cessna 182. The 3 of us did. I have my pilot's license, and I teamed up with a much more experienced pilot who's also a storm chaser. And we had a filmmaker with us, and the 3 of us went up to get a tornado from the air. And we didn't. Our supercell produced a tornado. We got great structure shots, but chasing in an airplane is much, much more difficult than chasing in a car. And what got us on that setup was we took off. Typically on the ground, you immediately go for the storm. As soon as it pops, you get on it and you stay with it. And we did that in the plane. And the problem with that is that we were flying in circles around this storm for hours, and we ran out of fuel. So we had to leave the storm and go get gas. And it's not like, oh, here's the next town, get gas, go back on the storm. It's like, no, we have to fly 20 minutes or a half an hour away to an airport, land, pull up, fuel the plane, and then take off. And by that time, all of the tornadoes were done. So we missed the tornadoes. And a few of our chases, the storms didn't produce tornadoes. There was at my worst aerial chase. We haven't seen a tornado yet in the plane. It's actually quite difficult to catch a tornado from an airplane, and you need the right setup and the right timing and the right positioning. We were on the Roselle, Kansas day last year on May 19th, and we took off early. We made sure we had enough gas. We didn't get on a storm too early, but the air was so damn bumpy that I started getting air sick. And Caleb had me take the flight controls hoping that it would take my mind off of being sick, but it didn't, because I'm just flying in a straight line. I had lots of time to think about getting sick. And I thought, well, I'll be better once we're in front of a tornado-warned supercell. And sure enough, we had a big tornado-warned supercell, but I was so sick I didn't even care then. And it got to the point where I had to throw up, and there was no air sickness bags or anything. Just the turbulence in front of this storm was so bad, and I get airsick pretty easily, actually, which is not good for a pilot. And the turbulence got so bad that I started to heave, and we had no air sickness bags, so what I had to do was open up the window and stick my head out the window. And it's really awful sticking your head into 120 miles an hour of wind when it's dark outside and really, really loud, and you're just heaving outside of the plane, and just awful, super sick, and just terrible. One of the worst experiences of my life, actually, was that chase. And we were on the North Storm. We missed the tornadoes. We saw the Roselle storm, but what happened was the squall line erupted in front of the Roselle storm, and that cut us off. We can't fly through a storm in the plane. Unlike on the ground, you can drive through a storm. You might lose your windshield due to hail. But in the airplane, if we lose our windshield due to hail, we're dead. I mean, then we're flying through the storm with no windshield. So we can't fly through the storm. We have to stay outside of it. And as a result, when we saw the squall line pop up, we had to pull the plug on the chase and abort. I mean, we couldn't fly through the squall line. But I mean, I was so sick at that point that I didn't even care. So I wanted to jump out of the plane. I was so sick. It was terrible. But yeah, we missed the tornadoes again on that one, and it was a miserable experience. and it's very expensive to chase in an airplane. It's $180 an hour to rent that plane. So. Nice. So yeah, it's something I've done and we did, and it is dangerous, and we considered what would get us into danger quickly and how to avoid it, and we planned it out, and we were very careful, and we took extra precautions up there. We never flew under or through a storm, and we got out of there at the first sign of trouble. But I mean, it is definitely a more dangerous endeavor, and I would not recommend it at all. But yeah, it's something we tried. And will I do it again? I'm really not sure, because the last time I flew, it was such an awful experience that I don't even know if I actually want to use my pilot's license anymore. It was that bad.
So you'd want to still fly on like nice clear days?
Yeah. You know, if the weather's nice, I'll go up for a joyride, sure. But actually, it's the nicer days where it can be some of the worst flying. Like when it's nice and sunny and you've got the puffy white cumulus clouds. That means there's big thermals and a lot of turbulence, and it's usually when we're flying to the storm and we've got that Q field in the warm sector that we're flying through that it's the worst. Like the plane's bouncing up and down. The guys we had with us, Caleb and Phil, they're taller than I am. They actually had to duck their heads down because the plane was bouncing so much they were banging their heads on the ceiling. So, you know, those nice sunny days can actually be really crappy to fly in. Once you get underneath the storm, under the anvil where we were, it actually smoothed out a lot because the shadow of the anvil, it takes a lot of that thermal rising air away, so the air actually smooths out pretty nicely.
Yeah, I would not. I would assume it's not, being in a Cessna, it's not like if you were on a Boeing 737. It goes through a storm. Oh, it's just like a little. So with the Cessna, it'd be a lot worse.
The Cessna does get whipped around more, although I guarantee it, if you fly through a thunderstorm in a commercial airliner, you're in for one hell of a ride. You're gonna wish you hadn't been there.
Oh, I assume that you've been through that then.
We never fly through a thunderstorm in the Cessna. I mean, actually, the turbulence in the updraft can get so severe that it could damage the control surfaces of the plane and actually cause us to crash. So we absolutely do not fly into the storm for that reason. And a commercial airline also will not fly through a storm because of that. Just you know, for safety's sake, but also for the comfort of the passengers. You don't fly through storms, and they always divert around them. I mean, if they had a rain shower or a band of rain, sure, they'll fly through that. But yeah, it's a bad deal in a commercial airliner too. They're just as susceptible to turbulence and the winds, so they'll handle the small stuff better. But I mean, those planes definitely feel the turbulence too.
Yeah. So before we get done, we would want to probably go through all the stuff that you have in your wonderful van. How many miles does that van have now? Is it even worth anything now?
No, it's not, and for a variety of reasons. First of all, the van's a 2010. I bought it in 2011, and what happened was is I was chasing in my old van. I drove the old van into the ground, by the way. It like literally the wheel came off of it. I was chasing with Brinley in Nebraska, and we were in Kearney, and we had some bad wheel noise, so we were going to take it into the shop. And on the way to the shop, the wheel actually popped off because we had accumulated mud on the axles from the previous day's chase, and the vibration loosened the lug nuts until the whole wheel flew off. So that was pretty crazy. We got another couple chases out of that thing before it was dead. So then we were chasing a storm in Missouri, and actually the storm we chased hit a dealership, and I went back a few weeks later to get the hail sale from the storm we chased. So not telling them I was a storm chaser, I went down there and I looked at the van. I'm like, yeah, it's got a lot of hail damage. You know, you're gonna have to knock that price down. So you know, I got a nice hail sale deal on this minivan, knowing that I would put a lot more hail dents into it. And so I got a hail sale deal. And then what I did was, and this is why the van's now worth nothing at all, is I took it to a sunroof installer and I had them cut a 19-inch circle in the roof of the van. And that's so I can put cameras on the roof and actually control them from inside the van. So on my old van, the cameras were motorized and controlled remotely. I wanted to be able to get my hands on the cameras on this new one. So I cut a hole in the roof, and I've got an acrylic dome over that, and I put a couple cameras up there, a DSLR and a camcorder. And being able to access the cameras and control them manually by hand is pretty nice. You know, I can make sure I'm getting the shot that I want to get. So, and I got the van with about 50,000 miles in 2011, and it's got 130 on it now. So I've added 80,000 miles, and almost most of that's from storm chasing. And so yeah, I mean it's getting up there in the mileage. It's beat to hell from hail, and I've done some pretty heavy modifications to it already. So I mean the van's already worth nothing. And I'm going to drive this one into the ground too, obviously, because I'm not going to sell it for anything.
Yeah, I don't think anybody'd want a hole in
Yeah, you know, you can try and market it as a custom sunroof job, but I don't think they're going to buy it.
Yeah,
They actually did a really nice job. They the headliner they very nice job sealing off the headliner. They put a nice trim around the hole. They did a real bang-up professional job. I mean, it almost looks like it came that way, a real professional job on that hole. Whereas if I just cut into the roof, it would look like crap and probably ruin the van.
and it's to pick up women.
Yes, definitely. No,
I don't know why it would be.
I get so many questions about that because the other thing is I don't put anything else on my car. A lot of people like to put Skywarn stickers and advertisements on the side of the car, like, oh, go to my website, or this, I'm a storm chaser, or you know, tornadohunters.com, or severe super duper hail explorers extravaganza. No, I don't have anything on my car at all except that camera dome. So people don't know what it's for, and I get like the wildest questions all the time. People thought it was a little greenhouse and I was growing plants in there. Somebody thought I had animals in there. One guy thought it was a device that would keep me safe from tornadoes. So people think it's weather radar. Other people think I'm the police, and I've got, you know, it's lights, or I've got speed cameras. The most common one though is people think I'm Google. They're like, oh, there's the Google car. So, you know, and you know, they think they're going to be on the Street View. So I had a woman in Texas who thought we worked for the news and that we were recording live. She was working at Subway, and we were in Subway eating, but she thought the van was recording live to the news. So she left the Subway counter and started dancing in front of the camera. and thinking she was on the news, even though the van was off and all the cameras were off. So, so yeah, it turns a lot of heads, and I have a lot of explaining to do, and I don't like that. I would prefer to be low key, but just the functionality I get out of that camera mount is just is worth the attention it draws. So anyway.
I don't think you're low key enough, given the fact that I knew who you were.
Yeah, you know, people have seen some of my videos, you know, and those are popular. And you know, again, I just chase for me, and I like that people like my videos. I enjoy that. I put them out there for people to enjoy. But largely, I'm just chasing for myself. So.
Yeah, that's why it's not called Skip is making a bunch of money. He's going to get a big Hummer, and he's going to put in monster truck tires on it or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Yeah, everything in my vehicle has a practical, functional purpose. I didn't really have any look at me type gizmos like the flashing lights and the stickers and you know, and a lot of that stuff's for sure.
You want all that stuff?
No, I don't want that stuff because, you know, again, I don't feel like that's important for chasing. It's not. I mean, it's not needed at all. But again, that's not why I chase. I don't chase for the attention. And to be honest, there's a lot of chasers who do. They want to be famous. They want people to look at them. They want the attention. That's why they're out there. Hey, look at me! I am a storm chaser. So. Whereas I just want to see a storm and a tornado. So.
Does it get to the point that a lot of people would probably just do that so they can get on a reality show?
A lot of people are trying for that, and a lot of them are not going to make. I mean, none of them are going to make it. I mean, there's just no market for that. The public's interest in reality chasing is waning, and the canary in the coal mine was storm chasers on Discovery getting canceled. So I mean, once that show is canceled because of waning interest and ratings. So I mean, it's just the fad is kind of over, and people are kind of moving on. Everybody knows about storm chasing. They know what it is. They're it's no longer new and novel, and it's not as exciting anymore. So the fame that you're going to get from the public, it's just not there anymore, and that's on the decline. And as a result, I think storm chasing may be maturing or even starting to plateau or slack off slightly. There's still a lot of chasers out there, and I think there's more than ever. But at the same time, I think we're getting to the point now where it's not this huge boom anymore. It's not accelerating in intensity and popularity of new chasers. I think it's starting to calm down a bit.
Yeah, especially if you get like a few years where nothing happens and they don't get much of anything, and then they get depressed.
Yeah. The last 3 years have been really quiet actually. 2012 had a couple events. 13 had a couple events, but it was otherwise a pretty slow year. And this year was even worse. It was one of the worst chase seasons for many. We had a couple days in April, and we had 3 days in June. And if you missed those days, your season was probably pretty crappy. And yeah, I mean, and a lot of the Southern Plains chasers, they didn't make the trip up to Nebraska in June. So I mean, and that was it. I mean, if you missed that, those were the big days.
So you're thinking that especially after this year, you could see some chasers, especially the ones that are just there for the fame and fortune and give me some YouTube videos, that some of them may just get out of it.
Oh yeah. There's going to be a lot of newcomers who are going to burn out real quick. They're going to, they're trying to make money off of it. They're trying to get famous off of it, and they realize there's no money and there's no fame in it. So they're going to burn themselves out real quick because they're going to chase a few busts and they're going to spend a few $1,000s doing it without much to show for it. Whereas I can bust 20 times and spend a lot of money on that and still have a great time. I love busting. I will drive to South Dakota, see a pretty sky, a pretty storm, but otherwise it was a bust and I had a great time. Loved it. Loved the chase. And there's other people who do that a few times and they're done. They'll stop chasing. And yeah, we'll definitely see that. And I think that might be why chasing will kind of slack off or decline a little bit, because we've got this influx of newcomers who think it's all exciting and action packed all the time, and what they really find out is that chasing is very mundane, boring, 99% driving and clouds, and there's 1% action and tornado, and it's really not feasible for them to keep doing that.
So would you tell anybody, if somebody said, I want to grow up and be a storm chaser, what would you say to them?
I don't discourage anybody. I don't tell people not to chase, and I try not to tell them why to chase. To me, storm chasing is a hobby. To me, storm chasing is about following your dreams. If your dream is to be a storm chaser, go for it. Do it. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong way to chase unless you're being reckless and putting others in danger. If your passion and your dream is to build an armored vehicle, go for it. Build an armored vehicle. If that's what you like to do, go for it. I try not to shun chasers who I would call, or other people would call, whackers, because they put stickers and antennas on their cars or build armored vehicles. If that's what your interest is, go for it. If you want to make a TV show, go do it. If you're getting in the way of others and being dangerous, if your light bars are distracting drivers and causing glare, that'll take a stand against. But if a kid comes up to me and they say, hey, I want to be a storm chaser, it's great. Study up, study the weather, learn how to be a storm chaser, study math, study science, go to college, get your ham radio license, go to spotter class. I'll encourage it. If people want to go out and see a tornado, again, good luck. Please read up on it so that you're safe and know how to do it properly. But really, because I'm just an amateur hobbyist, really, I don't try to discourage anyone else. I don't think there's any really official reason to be out there. No storm chaser is more deserving than another chaser. Even if you're doing scientific research, you got to share the road with everybody else, and even if it's your job, I mean, really, almost every storm chaser is out there just for the fun of it, and a very few have turned it into a job, and that's just because they were able to take their hobby and make a little money off of it, but otherwise, as a result, I don't discourage anybody. I just hope that they do the research and study up and learn as much as they can. People who are truly passionate about seeing storms and tornadoes, they're usually inclined to learn and learn the meteorology, learn how to forecast for themselves, learn what's dangerous and what's not, and we have a lot of good chasers. People who are out to be daredevils and adrenaline junkies and get a rush out of chasing. Those people are probably gonna burn themselves out, once they realize that, they can't just drive out and see a tornado every time. So.
Yeah. So, that's kind of depressing. that was a nice depressing end, but so yeah. Well, we kept you an hour and a half, but we're gonna get to the shout-outs portion. This is where we shout out anything, any person, thing. Your Storm Assist thing that's on your T-shirt or whatever.
Yeah, do a plug for Storm Assist. So there's a couple ways that storm chasers try to feel like they have some value, like they're not just watching a destructive force of nature for the fun of it. And Storm Assist is one of those ways that storm chasers have come together to you know, put something back into the community. And what Storm Assist is we're just a loose group of storm chasers, any chaser from any background or any location, and we are 100% volunteer. We are a 501(c) pending nonprofit organization, and what we do is we raise aid for victims of storms and tornadoes. And we've been able to raise tens of thousands of dollars through the sale of our storm footage in DVD form, T-shirts, and bumper stickers and other merchandise, and we give that directly back to local charitable organizations. We try to be kind of a quick response. A tornado hits a town, within days we're trying to give that town thousands of dollars, and we're trying to put it right in their hands. So we don't like to give to the Red Cross because that money our contributions are smaller and that money gets sucked up, and there's a lot of overhead in that organization. What we like to do is maybe find a school or a fire department or like an animal shelter we've given to already, and give the money directly to them, a rebuilding project in that town. And we were able to give $20,000 to more using a T-shirt fundraiser. And then every year we have a highlights DVD where storm chasers submit their best tornado shots, and we make it into kind of an entertaining little production, so you can see all of the big storms and tornado footage during the year, and then all of that money is then used the next year for the events, for the damaging events. So just a way that storm chasers can give back to the communities that they see impacted by the tornadoes they're chasing. So, and it's stormassist.org. If you want to buy a shirt or a DVD, or if you're a storm chaser, get involved with the project.
Or you just go to Skip's house.
Yeah.
He won't tell you where he lives. You'll have to search him out. Just look for the big dome van and with the thing that says attracting women. and
Yeah, well, you come to Springfield and you'll see the women lined up. So I just get in line with the women and yeah, just follow them in from there.
Okay, so yeah, we kept you an hour and a half. I'd shout out the Ted Fujita thing that he was at the third tornado symposium that was in Norman in 1991, and it was about the Plainfield tornado.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's on YouTube, and I've seen Ted Fujita talk, not in person because he's been dead for many years, God bless him, but
yeah,
a lot of his stuff is on YouTube, and there was this video of Ted Fujita talking about the Jordan tornado in 1976 in Iowa, which was an F5, and it had two anticyclonic tornado satellites. Both were F3s.
Wow.
And then this tornado went south to north, and then it came to a point and turned abruptly from going due north to east-southeast, and the satellite tornado did the same thing. And if you're having a tornado going in a direction, then it makes about a 105-degree turn to the right from going north to east-southeast, all of a sudden on like a dime. And I'll say there is video of that tornado taken by, I wouldn't call it a storm chaser, it was by a TV cameraman. And from what I have heard, that they had a terrible time because the tornado kept moving all over the place. You can see both tornadoes on that one thing. But I'll do Ted Fujita's thing from the third tornado symposium in Norman. That was in 1991. But it talks about Plainfield. Talks about there not being a warning, and he talks about cars being taken and cabs of trucks, and it goes completely. He's so in depth with it. He says this corn stalk. Of course, he was Japanese, so I'm like, this corn stalk was situated right in this field. It was found over here. He goes so meticulous. God, I wish he was still alive, but he would be like 90 by now. But
yeah, I'll have to watch that. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Let's look up the anything Ted Fujita. I think it's the third tornado symposium in Norman. That was in 1991.
Yeah, I've seen some of his work in video forms. You know, some of the stuff he did on the Tornado Video Classics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we've kept you over an hour and a half.
That's fine. I mean, really, I can talk about storms and tornadoes all night long.
Yeah,
So.
well, right. The funny thing about it is, and this is something that's odd on my end. My Google Hangout shut down on me like 30 minutes ago, but I can still hear you, and you can still hear me. So I'm assuming it's still recording.
It says, yeah, I don't know. It says live in the corner. I don't know if that means we're
Yeah,
still.
because it says my Hangout right now says it's not responding and it's whited out.
Oh,
And it did it 30 minutes ago, so I was not gonna touch it. I'm like, I am not touching this because, and it's done this on this desktop before, so we'll have our next Polygon next Friday or Saturday or whatever day. I don't know when it is because the person who was supposed to be on hasn't responded to me. So we may make poor Skip be on again. I don't know if he wants to be on every Friday. So
oh, yeah. Well, if I could do a weekly storm chasing tornado show.
well, right now I'm pretty much the fall. Right now I'm pretty much hosting the show pretty much myself in the fall because my co-host is busy a
Yeah.
lot of the time in the fall. Fall is and fall into the winter is his worst time.
Yeah.
But and I know you're. I mean, for you, for storm chasing, and we're gonna keep talking. Storm chasing, it could be February to November, and if you go around in the south. And have you been to many of the breaks like in the South, like Mississippi, Alabama?
My first time in the state of Mississippi was on April 28th, and we got an F3 that hit Tupelo. That was my first. Within an hour and a half of me entering the state for the first time, we were on a big tornado. And I generally avoid Dixie Alley because the terrain and the trees are really bad down there.
Yeah.
And that was my first attempt, and the only reason we did it was because we were already down there. We had chased Arkansas the day before, which I'll never chase Central Arkansas again. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
And, but in Mississippi, yeah, we were able to get. We saw so many trees. We were able to get up on an interchange bridge, and from on top of that overpass bridge, we were able to see over the tops of the trees, and there was a big significant tornado in progress. And we were right in the path, and we were about a minute from impact, and we were able to get a shot of it, and then realize that we had to move immediately and then get out of there. And that was one of the most intense and significant tornado intercepts that I've had, and yeah, that was in Mississippi earlier this year. So.
And the funny thing was, we had Matt Laban on. He's the one who became famous for telling everybody at his TV station in Tupelo from that tornado to go to the basement. You've probably seen that video footage of him saying "basement now."
I don't think I have.
Oh,
So I have to check that out too.
you're sad. You're sad
The,
individual.
the problem is that a lot of them don't have basements down there. So
Yeah, storm pits.
okay, yeah, I mean, especially in Oklahoma. I mean, it's just terrible that there's one of the most tornado-prone spots, and nobody has decent shelter. So
And I think that's because the ground in Oklahoma is clay.
that
Or
you
it's a
know
reddish dirt, because I've been in Oklahoma a few times and it's clayish, icky.
maybe they did have construction issues, but I heard a lot of that is largely just kind of a myth. Yeah, they have high groundwater and a clay substrate, but what I think happens is just that the culture down there is not used to building basements, so nobody really wants or has a need for it, and the contractors and builders aren't really familiar with it. But I have heard that yes, with modern construction techniques, you can certainly build a basement in Oklahoma. There is a builder based out of Oklahoma City who has constructed hundreds of basements in the area. So, and he's one of the few that does it down there. Nobody does it, but it can be done. I think it's just a cultural thing. So,
Yeah,
which is a shame because they could really use them.
yeah. I think we need a lot more storm shelters, basements. I mean, there's some cases where basements, you'll go down there and you may still die anyway. If it's your time, it's your time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the house I'm in right now, I'm actually in the basement right now, and in the unfinished portion of this house, there's actually a bump out in the foundation that runs underneath the porch, and there's concrete on 5 sides of this box. So, if the house collapses, you'd be fine. So, you could ride out an F5 no problem in this house. Um, but yeah, it'd be nice if more people had that. I mean, I'll never use that shelter, but it's nice to know that maybe the cats will.
Maybe. Okay, well, that'll be the end of this lovely episode, considering the fact that I still have a whited out screen. So we'll have to, because we could have gone on forever, but I have to get stuff ready, and I have other stuff and whatnot. I mean, I could do a marathon, but if I can't even go an hour and almost 40 minutes, and my computer wants me to shut Google Hangouts out, and then it's not good. I'd probably have better luck with my laptop, and it has a dying battery. So,
Yeah,
but
man. Well,
yeah,
thank you for having me, and it was fun.
yeah, we'll probably have you on. We'll make you probably come on every Friday now at the rate we're going. But yeah, our guests, God, I don't know what they are. I know we have. You may want to be interested in this. We have Meredith Garofalo from KEYT in Santa Barbara, California. She'll be on in September. I don't remember what day. September 12th. Rob Perillo from KATC in Lafayette, Louisiana is going to be on October something. I can't remember. October 10th, I believe it is. And I'm able to confirm that I will have Dan Satterfield on, who used to be in Birmingham and Huntsville. He's now in Salisbury, Maryland. I don't know what day he'll be on yet because he hasn't told me. So Dan, you need to email me back your response. So this has been Polygon Issuance number 23, I think it is. Yes. So thank you for joining us. Skip can wave because I can't see him anymore because the screen's whited out. So he can wave. He can eat food for whatever. So goodbye. God bless. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. Be weather aware. So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.